The reason you haven't gotten rich off your own land isn't because you lack skill. It's because you're growing the wrong thing. You're growing grass while your neighbor is growing money. Change just one thing, plant the right tree just once, and that small backyard can become a steady source of income for decades to come. No acres of land needed, no farming experience required, and yes, you can even grow these in pots. Just start today. A single mature tree can produce hundreds of pounds of nuts every year. And here's the part that's almost hard to believe. Many of these trees live 300, even 1,000 years, meaning the tree you plant today won't just feed you, but your children and generations you'll never meet. Some varieties sell for tens of dollars a pound. Multiply that by hundreds of pounds a year, year after year, and you'll understand why people quietly call them mortgage-paying trees. In this video, I'm showing you exactly which 6 trees are worth planting, where to plant them, how soon you'll get your first harvest, and why they could help cover your house payment year after year. 1. Macadamia. I'll never forget the first time I tasted one straight off the tree. Buttery, almost sweet, nothing like that dusty bag from the grocery store. That single bite changed how I thought about small space growing for good. Macadamia trees thrive in zones 9 through 11, South Florida, Hawaii, Southern California, parts of Texas near the Gulf. They handle heat without complaint, but they're thirsty trees. Give them consistent moisture and well-drained soil, and they'll reward you for decades. Full sun is non-negotiable. They also hate frost, so anything below Zone 9 outdoors is a gamble. But here's the good news. Macadamias do beautifully in containers. A dwarf grafted variety can live happily in a half barrel on a patio, even in Zone 7 or 8, as long as you bring it into a greenhouse or garage during freezes. Speaking of grafted trees, that's the real shortcut. A standard seedling macadamia takes 7 to 10 years before its first nuts. A grafted dwarf cultivar, 2 to 3 years. That's the difference between waiting through a decade or barely 2 presidential terms. Once mature, a single tree can produce over 100 pounds of nuts a season. And the math here is staggering. Raw macadamias sell for $15 to $25 a pound wholesale and up to $35 at retail. Nutritionally, they're loaded with healthy monounsaturated fats, fiber, magnesium, and antioxidants closer to an olive than a typical nut. Harvest happens when nuts drop naturally to the ground, usually fall through early winter. Crack them fresh for snacking roast and salt them for gifting, or press the oil, one of the most heat-stable cooking oils that exists. One tree, a few years of patience, a lifetime of return. Stuck on where to source planting stock that'll actually survive long enough to become a real harvest? Comment your state below. I've burned thousands of dollars over the years on what I now call half-dead sticks, seedlings shipped from unreliable nurseries that never had a real shot. I'll point you straight to the suppliers that ship true grafted trees, the kind that actually protect your investment and keep these mortgage-paying crops on schedule. 2. Cashew. The tree that quietly grows 2 products at once, and most people only know about one of them. Here's what surprised me the first time I grew one. That hard little seed you crack open for snacking. It's not actually the fruit. It dangles off the bottom of something called a cashew apple. A strange, colorful, almost pear-shaped fruit that's perfectly edible on its own. Juice it, ferment it, eat it fresh. 1 tree, 2 harvests. Zones 10 through 11 are home turf coastal South Florida, Hawaii, or a tightly managed greenhouse setup if you're further north. Toughness is this tree's whole personality. Poor sandy soil that would kill a peach tree, cashews barely notice. Drought doesn't scare them either, not once their roots are established. Honestly, the biggest mistake new growers make is babying them with too much water and attention. 3 years. That's roughly how long a grafted cashew takes before its first real harvest fast for a tropical nut tree. By maturity, you're looking at 20 to 50 pounds of raw cashews a year, plus dozens of pounds of that bonus fruit hanging right alongside them. Now, a fair warning, the raw shell contains an irritant oil, which is why almost nobody processes cashews by hand at home. Most backyard growers sell the raw harvest to a local processor instead. Even unprocessed raw cashews bring $8 to $12 a pound wholesale, roasted and bagged for retail. 15, sometimes 20. Young trees can live in containers for a couple seasons, but don't get attached to that arrangement. Cashews want real ground, eventually plan the move before year 3, and you'll never slow down their growth. Stay with me through this next part. It's not the flashiest section, but skip it, and you'll make the one mistake that costs growers years. Planting trees is a long game. So is building an audience here, subscribe, and let's grow both together, one upload at a time. 3. Sasha Inchi. I almost didn't include it. Then I remembered the math and changed my mind immediately. This is a vine native to the Amazon, and it climbs a trellis the way pole beans do, except instead of beans, it produces star-shaped seed pods packed with what nutritionists call one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids on the planet. We're talking levels that rival fish oil from something growing on a fence in your backyard. Zones 10 through 11 outdoors. Though plenty of growers run it as a container vine in a sunroom or greenhouse further north, since it doesn't need nearly the space a full nut tree does. Give it a trellis, consistent warmth, and decent moisture, and it climbs fast. 20 feet in a single season isn't unusual. Here's where it blows every other plant on this list out of the water harvest time. Forget waiting 2 or 3 years. Sasha Inchi starts producing pods in 6 to 8 months from planting. And it doesn't stop. This vine flowers and fruits continuously year-round in the right climate, which means you're not waiting for one autumn harvest, you're picking pods on a rolling basis month after month. A single healthy vine can produce several pounds of seeds annually, and the market loves them. Raw Sasha Inchi seeds sell in the $8 to $15 per pound range. But here's the real money: cold-pressed Sasha Inchi oil, sold as a superfood supplement, can fetch upward of $30 for a small bottle. Roast the seeds for snacking, press them for oil, or sell them whole to the booming health food market. Small footprint, fast turnaround, serious upside. What if one of these trees could survive a direct hit from a hurricane and still fruit that same season? Keep watching, you're about to meet it. 4. Almond. The tree that built California's billion-dollar nut industry, and the one that breaks every rule on this list. Forget the tropics. This tree wants winter, cold nights, real dormancy, then a long, dry, sunny stretch through summer. That exact combination is rare in the U.S., which is why almost the entire national supply comes from one narrow valley in California. Zones 5 through 9 work. Zones 7 and 8 are the sweet spot. Mild winters enough, chill hours, dry springs. Rain during bloom is the one thing to fear. Those blossoms are delicate, and a single wet spring can wipe out the whole harvest before it even begins. Grafted trees start producing in 3 to 4 years, fast considering how established this crop is in commercial agriculture. Once mature, a single tree can hand you 30 to 50 pounds a year. And the roots don't ask for much. California's entire almond industry survives on far less water than most people assume, once those roots are deep enough. Nutrition needs no sales pitch here. Protein, fiber, healthy fat, vitamin E almonds are already sitting in your pantry right now. You're not introducing your family to something strange. You're just cutting out the middleman. And that middleman charges a lot. $4 to $7 a pound at retail. Multiply that by 50 pounds every single year for a tree that can keep producing for 50 years, sometimes longer. Do that math once, and it stops looking like a backyard hobby. It starts looking like a second paycheck when your neighbors are currently handing to the grocery store week after week for nothing in return. 5. Pistachio. The tree that refuses to pick a side, and that's exactly what makes it special. Every other tree on this list demands one type of climate. Tropical heat or temperate cold, pick one. Pistachio just shrugs and handles both as long as the air stays dry. Zones 7 through 11, high deserts of California, Arizona, even drier stretches of the South. The one thing it won't forgive is humidity. Wet air invites disease faster than almost anything else can hurt this tree. Here's the quirk nobody warns you about before you plant one pistachio trees, come male or female. Plant only one, and you'll harvest exactly nothing, no matter how perfect the soil, the sun, the timing. One male tree, though, can pollinate roughly a dozen females nearby, so the math actually favors you once you understand the rule going in. Patience is required. 5 to 7 years before real production starts. Slower than macadamia, considerably faster than something like Brazil nut. But once that tree matures, expect 50 pounds or more every single year for well over a century if conditions stay right. What makes it bulletproof is underground. Deep tap roots dig for water. Other trees never reach, which is exactly why drought barely registers once the tree's established. You could practically ignore it through a dry summer, and it wouldn't blink. Pricing reflects that resilience, too. $5 to $9 a pound raw, climbing higher. Once roasted and salted for retail shelves, pistachio commands real money season after season. Cold-hardy enough for desert winters, heat-tolerant enough for southern summers. One tree comfortable in two climates most growers assume are opposites, and quietly proving them wrong year after year. 6. Peely. Nobody on this list has even heard of it. That's exactly the point. A grower in the Philippines showed me his growing wild in a corner of his yard, completely ignored, dropping fruit nobody ever bothered to pick up. I remember thinking, how is the toughest, most storm-resistant nut tree on earth, also the most overlooked one? Zones 10 through 12 outdoors, true tropical heat and humidity. Typhoon force winds barely register. Poor, rocky, even volcanic soil that kills citrus outright. This tree doesn't care. It's one of the most storm-resistant fruit trees in existence, built for conditions that flatten everything else around it. It does want consistent moisture, though pair that heat tolerance with dry drought and growth slows fast. Container growing works while young, but Peely eventually wants real ground to spread its roots. Plan for that move within the first few years, especially if you're outside true tropical zones and relying on a greenhouse through winter. Patience matters here. 5 to 7 years before solid production, the longest wait on this list. But mature trees live over a century, some documented far beyond that you're planting something your grandchildren inherit, not just harvest. Crack open the fruit, and there's a single rich, oily kernel inside, high in healthy fat and protein tasting somewhere between almond and macadamia, smoother, more buttery. A strong, mature tree drops over 100 pounds in a good season. Because almost nobody grows this commercially outside Southeast Asia, pricing favors the grower. Hard, raw kernels often match or beat macadamia, sometimes $25 a pound or more to the right specialty buyer. Secret tree. One more tree before we close out, and honestly, I saved this one for a reason. If you've been watching and thinking, none of these 6 fit my backyard, chestnut is the answer. Minnesota winters. Ohio frost. Real cold, the kind that kills everything else on this list within a season. Macadamia needs tropics. Cashew can't handle one hard freeze. Peely wants humidity year-round. Chestnut doesn't care about any of those rules. Zone 4, straight through Zone 9, it just works. Hand it acidic, nutrient-starved clay that would make a peach tree quit, and watch it thrive anyway. There's history behind that toughness, too. Centuries of European mountain villages survived on this tree alone. When wheat harvests failed, families ground the nuts into flour to make it through winter. Not a nickname, not a metaphor. Actual famine food that kept entire regions alive. Grafted trees, 3 to 5 years to first harvest. Mature ones drop 50 to 100 pounds annually, season after season without fail. Here's what sets it apart nutritionally. Lower fat, much higher starch than every other tree we've covered. This isn't snack food. It's closer to a grain. Roast it, boil it, grind it into flour, simmer it down into preserves. Nothing else on this list bends to that many uses. Pricing sits comfortably at $6 to $10 a pound, steady demand from home kitchens and fine dining alike. So if nothing fits so far, stop worrying. This is the tree that closes the gap. Plant chestnut and almost no climate in this country locks you out anymore. Now, before you go buy any of these, there's a mistake almost everyone makes in the first 30 seconds of planting. I'll save you from that right after this. Quick FAQ before we wrap up, because I get these questions in the comments every single time. Where do you actually buy these trees? Skip the big box garden centers. They rarely carry grafted varieties, and what they do stock is usually generic seedlings that take twice as long to fruit. Look up specialty nurseries that ship bare root or potted grafted trees directly. A quick search for grafted tree name nursery, plus your state will get you there. For rarer ones like Peely or Sacha Inchi, specialty tropical fruit nurseries in Florida or Hawaii are your best bet. And yes, most of them ship. Now, the mistake almost everyone makes buying seedling trees instead of grafted ones because they're cheaper. That $5 or $10 you save costs you years. A seedling pecan might take 10 years to fruit. A grafted one, 3. Always check the label. Always ask the nursery directly if it's grafted. Second mistake, planting without checking your actual zone first, not just guessing based on what state you live in. Microclimates matter. A coastal pocket can run a full zone warmer than 20 miles inland. And when it's time to sell local farmers markets first, then specialty food co-ops, then online direct-to-consumer through your own small website. Skip wholesale distributors early on. They pay the least by far. So there you have it. 6 trees, 6 paths to the same destination, turning grass that costs you money into something that finally pays you back. Some of these will fruit in your lifetime and feed your family for decades. Others, like Peely, you're planting for grandchildren you haven't met yet. Either way, the math doesn't lie. A few $100s in saplings today against decades of harvest against grocery store prices that only climb. That's not a hobby. That's an investment with leaves. Start small if you need to. 1 tree, 1 container, 1 corner of the yard. You don't need acreage. You need a decision. If this video gave you a starting point, drop a comment and tell me which tree you're planting first. Subscribe if you want more of this. Real numbers, real climates, real homestead wisdom, no fluff. Your backyard's been sitting idle long enough. Time to put it to work.